right, here we go. All right, everybody, welcome back to the 24 Down podcast. We are here, episode 15, and I am joined by a very special guest, somebody that I think was a bucket list for a lot of us to get on here when this whole thing started off. We are joined by our very own RD of 24 Down, Mark Telesha. Mark, how's it going?
Yes. You have such a good radio voice.
I see people.
You've grown up.
People tell me that, and I can't. If I listen to myself back, I hate it. I absolutely hate it.
That's universal. But
Yeah.
yes, that's very, very, very pro.
Well, I appreciate it. How you been?
Oh, I've been pretty good. Been a little crazy.
Yeah. You just moved, right?
Yes. Well, we moved. Well, when I left the RD job and I went over to the library, we moved to Allentown. And we lived there for 12 years, and then we moved to Hershey, PA.
Nice.
2 years ago, and then just a month ago, we moved into what is our home.
Okay.
So if anyone's ever thinking about being a house parent at Milton Hershey School, write down my name. There's a big, huge incentive program.
Oh, okay.
Yes. Many thousands.
Wow. Well, I mean, that's definitely, I mean, there's a lot of people still in the area anyway, so I guess you never know. But let's kind of get into all that. Get into everything that has been your life post 24 Down, post Valley Forge. I mean, you could even recap some of maybe what got you into Valley Forge. You know, whatever you want to do. Give us some history and leading up to today where you're at.
Well, we'll just go from leaving Valley Forge. So I got a job I wanted to get out of being a residence director. And we can go into why I wanted to get out of that later on. But wanted to get out of that and then got into the librarian position. And I really liked it. But it went from, hey, work 40 hours a week and you can get some schooling, to I was designing 3 online classes every semester, driving and doing 2 full-time graduate classes, and driving an hour and a half to Valley Forge in one way. So I ended up in the hospital in September when I first started that job. I started in June. And then we decided we needed to do something different. So I was going to get a library job up in Allentown, teaching in the public schools. And they said they couldn't promise me anything, but they thought everything. They hired someone from the cafeteria to be a librarian the previous year. And it was 2008. A third of all librarians were fired in the whole state from that time on. So I ended up working for Head Start, which is teaching 3, 4, and 5-year-olds. I'd like to think that 24 Down and their maturity level really prepared me to be working with 3, 4, and 5-year-olds. So I did that for 11 years. And but while I was doing that, I don't know if you guys remember, but remember I had my foster daughter who was living there, and she hated it. She hated being with us. She hated being there, and so she just left one June day. I was actually going to graduate school, and she left. And when we moved up to Allentown, she actually moved back in the first month we were there. And she said she was really, really sorry, and that she was begging to come in. And we were kind of like, we really like helping you from a distance. And she's like, no, I really want to move in. And I think she regretted those words a lot of times. But she moved in that June, and then that December, her 2 brothers moved in and were our foster children. And then our youngest foster son, who was Zakai, he had such bad mental health issues that by February he had left our home because my daughter was only 1 and didn't feel safe. So he left and went to Hazelton Children's Home after being removed in the last 2 foster homes with handcuffs by the police. Like it was just 7 years old. It was really pretty crazy. And so I quit, and he went into Hazelton Children's Home in April, and I quit. I put in my month notice in April. So I was leaving. Dr. Meyer gave me a little beautiful little plaque and had me come up in front of everybody. I got little cheers and moved back up, and I was supposed to work on the online classes for the fall and for the spring for next year. And August, I was working at Head Start, and the contract I was working under actually got cut in my last day of work. So I had no library job, and my Head Start job got cut. We got a phone call that our foster son Zakai, who was 7, they found out he had bone cancer, and that was, I think that was a Friday, and by that Tuesday he was actually in our car moving back home with us, and so he lived with us. He moved in, and we actually adopted him, and then we have our other 2. So we have Xavier's our oldest, and he lives in Virginia and works as the Department of Defense for the Air Force. He graduated from Kutztown. And then my daughter Jaden, she actually went to Valley Forge for 1 semester. I begged her not to. I kept telling her that everyone there's really, really lazy, and that she'll just end up just talking to everybody all the time and not get her grades done. And I'd like to say I was right, but I was right. And she graduated from Kutztown, and she works for Amazon in Easton right now, and she's hoping to get a different job. She works in HR, and she wants she's going for a master's in social work. And then my son Zakai, after about 4.5 years of battling cancer, he actually passed away 7 years ago. So that was huge. He wrote a comic book, and actually the whole comic book blog sphere actually put his comic book on their blogs when he passed away, which was really neat. And we ended up selling, I think we sold over 3,000 of his comic books.
Oh, wow.
And so we made a little foundation and did things for foster kids, and met at our church in Bethlehem. So that was pretty much my life consumed by that. And I could barely get the bills paid. And I always thought I would go back working in a church, and it never worked out. Like either they were interested, and then they found out that I had a multiracial family. I never heard another word from them again, or I would get an offer and it'd be like $13,000 a year or $22,000 a year, and it's like I got a family of 5. I can't.
Yeah, I mean, try doing that alone, much less with a family of 5.
Yeah, so it was really sad. Like my Head Start job paid much more than anything I was offered in a church setting. But so we decided we needed to do something. So I was doing 2 jobs. I was being a TSS working with autistic kids, and my wife Susie's boss told her about Milton Hershey School and how we could work there every other weekend, and it basically would it'd pay almost $1,000 just for us to come up here on a Friday and leave on a Sunday night. And we were all together, and we didn't have to be split apart, just working with kids. So we did that for a couple of years, and we actually went in and did it full time. And so we did that, and now I actually have my own home, and I have 6 boys. They're 3rd and 4th grade, and they drove me absolutely crazy tonight, but that's okay.
Well, I mean, so to me, it sounds like obviously a lot has changed, but your character has remained the exact same. Like you definitely always had that that love for all of the students at Valley Forge, but like we could see like your love for your family. I'm not just speaking for myself here. Like I know for a fact any of the guys would come out and say the same thing, and it sounds like all that is still very much the same as expected. So no, I mean that's really cool to hear your journey from Valley Forge to where you are now. And I think a lot of the guys will also be really happy to hear that. So
yeah, well, it's nice to be able to pay the bills.
for sure. Well, if there's if there's more you want to get into on a catch up, we can do that. If not, we can transition right into some of these questions here.
We can do that and then see where it takes us.
Okay. All right. So let me pull these questions out. We got quite a few questions here. So I think I don't know if you saw a lot of these were on the Facebook post. So I don't know if you saw and have prepped a lot of these, but I think you're going to enjoy a lot of them. So all right. So the first set of questions comes from Matt Bowdwin. And his first question is he wants to know how it felt never being able to beat him in Tekken.
Now, Matt Bowden said that?
Yes. It's I know that's coming
Not
up too.
Matthias.
Right. Matt Bowdwin said that.
Wait, I don't ever remember him even beating me. I just remember always hearing Nina wins.
I mean, this sounds like this is a possible like future debate right here.
This could be.
So I remember, I mean, and the Tekken theme, I think, is going to come up quite a bit here within these questions, because that was something that you were very passionate about, and a lot of the guys on the floor were passionate about. But like, I think to me, the whole Tekken thing really, it kind of showed us all that like you were in it to like be the disciplinary guy when you needed to be, but you were also like, hey, I'm going to have fun with these guys at the same time. And I think that to me, that was a huge thing. I didn't even play Tekken, but like I could see that through how you interacted and stuff like that. And I know it wasn't just Tekken. You would do some of the other video games as well too. So
I still play.
Yeah.
But I do League of Legends.
Oh, okay.
And that's my new jam.
So
like 10 years.
any 24 down guys out there that play that game, now you got to hit mark up, and I've never played. Is that something you play online with people?
Yeah, it's the world's biggest game.
Oh, wow.
There's multimillionaires that play the game. They have their own league and everything.
Yeah, I've seen commercials and heard about it for a long time. I've just never played it.
You want to guess what my username is?
Something about RD something.
No. Oh, that would be funny. No, I'm very, very brutally honest. So it's bald fat. BALDFAT. So hit me up. Silver 4.
I don't know what that means, but I'll take it.
Yes. It means I'm not very good.
Oh, okay. Well, you're better than I am. So, Bodwin's next question is he wants to know if you stuck up for him when he got branded and berated by the Valley Forge cabinet.
Was it the cabinet or was it really just Dr. Myers?
According to his question, it was the cabinet, but if I had to guess, I wasn't in the room. If I had to guess, it was probably mostly Dr. Meyer, but I don't know.
Yeah, there's I still remember when that video came out. My heart just sank. I was like, oh. But there has been many times when students will come and they're going to get removed from the school or something like that, and they'll come to me and they're like, oh, I'm going to appeal to Dr. Meyer. And I'm like, please, I'm saying this from the bottom of my heart. Don't do that. He will destroy you. I was like, I'm sure you think he'll just come across as just being very nice, but he'll tell you 10 different ways of how your screw up was really a big screw up and that you didn't know. So I remember when the video came in, and I remember I was thinking, okay, how am I going to make this be a soft landing for somebody? And I'm thinking about it, and then what happens if I get a phone call and it's Dr. Meyer? Someone sent it to him. I'm like, why did someone just send it to Dr. Meyer straight? My mind is a little bit blown. And I don't know if did you guys ever notice that the other RDs were like anti you guys?
Yeah, I want to bring that up in a minute too, but continue.
So I'm like, oh my goodness, this is just going to fuel all the hatred of all the other RDs onto these guys, and I got to think of what can I do. So I told Dr. Meyer I would come to his office. I love Dr. Meyer. I've always had a good relationship with him. I've even seen him in the past. I mean, just recent past, I've seen him a couple times. And for some reason, half the time I would go there and talk, and I just totally think he's just going to be like, Mark, just pack up your bags. And he'd be like, no, Mark, that's a really good idea. Thank you. And so I went to talk to him, and he immediately does the, what would you do? So I remember doing that. And so I was trying to figure out how to do a soft landing, but in the early social media days, why does everyone have to put everything in their video? They ended it with the F-bomb, and then it repeated.
I didn't know that. I mean, I don't recollect that, but it doesn't surprise me.
Yes, it was this one guy who just put his arm down there because what was his name? He married Dr. Mortensen's daughter.
I have no idea.
He put his arm out and they brand him, and he's the only one that like didn't even flinch. I was very impressed by him. But then the other guy, he swore, and then they just repeated it like 3 or 4 times. So I knew there was no statement. But I think I wish Matt was here, because I would ask him. I was like, I think I talked to him before he went into the meeting, and I just told him to keep his mouth quiet.
So you said that Dr. Meyer presented you with the question, what would you do? So what would you do in that, like, if you had complete control of the situation, like what would you have done in that situation?
I don't even think I could even think like that, because I felt like my role was totally different. It was like I had my guys.
Sure.
A lot of my guys loved me. Some of the guys hated me just because I had some kind of authority of whatever they thought, and stuff like that. So I always was in the protector mode. So I always was kept saying, well, I don't see how this would be any different than if someone got a tattoo. If someone got a tattoo, and then I was like, and then I said, the thing that's really important is that we have to keep it safe. Like, it's a safety issue, and we should teach them to be safe. I think that was my jam.
So this kind of this leads me into, like, I'm gonna go right into like a few questions that I had for you, and this leads right into it. And I don't know if you can articulate or pinpoint the reasoning, but like my first question is, why was there a difference between you and, say, some of the other RDs or some of the other Valley Forge employees in the way that you discipline and how to discipline? And to me, just you stood out so much compared to everybody else in that school as far as a disciplinary action. And it wasn't that you let us get away with things, but your approach to it was different. I'm curious, like, what your reasoning for that was.
Well, I think here you want to hear a funny story?
Yeah.
Inside story. So we're in these meetings of doom. We had a 3-hour meeting every week. And to say I dreaded that 3 hours is not even saying anything. But we're there, and there was a difference between me and the other RDs. Like, I think when I think of Valley Forge, I think I had the least coworker friends, like, after the job than anywhere else I ever was at. I think I have 3. and one's a married couple. But I remember we're there and we're talking about movies. And for some reason, the other RDs thought I was not the disciplinary. Like, they thought I was the one that just let you guys get away with everything. And that, you guys were running wild because I wouldn't rein you back. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I was like, I do what the policy says. And if I don't agree with the policy, I'll talk to somebody. But I was like, I always follow the policy. And so it came up, and it was heated. Like, I just was really annoyed because they were kind of saying I was being a pushover. And so finally, at the end of the meeting, I decided I was going to look up at all the different fines that were given out for the last 2 semesters. And so for movie fines, there was 90 3 fines given out for rated R movies. Do you want to know how many were done by me?
I'm gonna say less than 10%, probably, right?
No.
It was a complete opposite.
It was complete opposite. I did
Okay.
like 89 out of the 93.
Okay. I have a reason for why I said that, but continue. Continue.
So I did all the fining. And so
Sure.
then once I figured that out, I started looking at all the like the chapel fines and everything else. My fines were like, if you took my fines and you took the other 3, they never matched me. I felt like such a jerk. But but my reputation was I was a pushover and I would be easy on them. But I always told them, and I think the reason why there was an issue is I didn't care about the past. I didn't care about so much as the media as much as the future. And it's like a lot of times when I would do discipline, I really was caring. Like, unfortunately, I have a lot of people had to leave Valley Forge because I was told that they had to leave, and I hated that. And actually, I think I'm friends with all but one that ever left. Like, they're still Facebook friends with me, the people that left the school. But I think a lot of it was I just really cared about them, and it wasn't like I didn't care about their Valley Forge career. I worried about what they were going to be in the future. So if someone got caught doing something stupid, I was more worried about them learning a lesson. But also, I always felt like the easiest way to do things in management is just follow the books, because if I don't follow it to the letter, then it's just I just am personally deciding who I like or don't like,
Sure.
and then that just pisses people off. Oh, I'm
Sure.
from the Northeast. Pissed off isn't a bad word.
So part of the reason that I guessed such a low number, and I don't know if this is like a dynamic to like how things were and if this is some form of truth, but to me, I think that you were like you would find people and you would discipline people, but you did it in such a kind way and respectable way, and it was let me teach you a lesson from a loving perspective. And that's kind of why I asked the question of why were you different than everybody else? But because you did that, I think you earned everybody. Well, I mean, mostly everybody's respect, as far as the people, students underneath you. And so, whether we like to admit it or not, like 24 Down had a edge to us, and we weren't necessarily bad, like or anything like that. So I think that edge gave us this reputation to where people probably expected that these guys are going to be getting in trouble nonstop. So when you don't see as many fines right off the rip, you're thinking, oh, well, he's just a pushover. But the truth is that we respected you and we learned enough to where like we weren't breaking the rules as much as people probably thought we were. Now, that doesn't mean that we still didn't have the most movie finds and things like that. But again, like you were very consistent and you didn't let us get away with it. But when something happened, you would do it in a way that we felt like we were respected as well.
That makes me sad.
I'm not trying. I mean, I'm not trying to make you sad. I'm just saying, like
no, it's very humbling.
Yeah.
But it's like it's sad that not everyone felt like that.
Well, I mean, yeah, and so.
But you do know why a lot of administration and everything was kind of hype. Was the you remember how 4 Down was a thing?
Yes.
Did you know about 4 Up before them?
No.
It was called the Barrio.
Okay.
Those guys were insane.
Yeah.
And I think like, no, they just were insane. I never met them. Like, first time I came up to Valley Forge was, well, in my adult life was 99. And so I came up there and I started hanging out with the guys in 4 Down. And the guys, they kind of overtook the Barrio just that year. Like, you guys overtook 4 Down really quickly.
Right.
4 Down did that to the Barrio.
Okay.
And so, but a lot of people remember all the horrible stuff that happened there. And so I think a lot of people were just expecting those kind of things. it
Sure.
happened again.
Sure. I mean, I guess that's understandable. So, um, yeah, I mean, it makes sense. So I didn't know any of those people. I guess my issue is still though, like you could expect and be afraid that that's going to happen again, but rather than judge somebody and expect that, like get to know them for the people they really are and build them up to be the people that they're going to be. And I felt like there was some failure in that aspect from leadership perspectives, not with you, but with some other people. But I'm not trying to, I'm not trying to like trash the school or anything like that. My next, I guess, question is have you listened to all the episodes?
I have not.
Okay, um, which is fine. So I don't know if
I was expecting to like listen to many,
yeah,
and it did not happen.
I mean that's fine. So I don't know which ones you've listened to and haven't to listened to, but I to be completely honest, I have a reputation of having a very um, bad taste in my mouth about Valley Forge and some people at Valley Forge, namely Dr. Meyer, Dr. Mortensen, and some others. But I also have a reputation of having a very bad mouth. So my my next question is, am I going to get fined at all for all the
You
swearing?
could. My oldest daughter, she was calling because they switched her over to night shift, so she could do her graduate school, and I was like, "You're just doing it for the benefit of those ahead of you, like you're." And she swore at me, and she apologized, and then her brother called and berated her for 20 minutes, just dying laughing on the phone. So, will not fine you.
All right, that's good. I guess the next question, kind of in that same vein, is any of the podcasts that you have listened to, is there anything that has been said that it's like disappointed you or like bummed you out to hear?
Well, you want to know the really deep, dark secret?
Sure.
I haven't gotten a chance to listen to one of them.
Oh, well, that's, I mean, that might be for the best, to be honest.
Might be.
Like, just to be, and I don't know if you will ever listen to them, but like
Oh, I probably will.
to be
I
like,
love podcasts.
to be completely honest, like my episode, it is very vulgar at times, but it is also like, I mean, I go into some things, I won't, because I won't go into this because I've already gone into, but some things where I was like very hurt by leadership at Valley Forge, and I just kind of do it in a very raw way. I would say mine's probably the toughest to listen to, just because I don't hold back any punches if I have the opportunity to be honest. So, but there's all at the other side of the coin. There's some really, really great parts to everybody's podcast. Like there's some very uplifting things to everyone's podcast. And it's just cool to hear like stories again and have memories brought up and everything like that. So
Well, it's kind of therapy sessions too sometimes.
for sure, for sure.
So ask me a question though. Ask me what my favorite job was.
All right, what was your favorite job?
Was definitely Head Start. I love that job.
Yeah, not it wasn't being RD of all
No,
of us.
ask me another question.
Okay, what's the question I'm asking?
Um, what was my least favorite job?
All right, we're gonna continue on to these next set of questions here because I don't want to hear that answer.
Oh,
Is it us? Was it being RD?
no,
Oh, all right.
it was being a residence director at Valley Forge. That was by far my least favorite job, and it was 100% not the students.
That's
It had
fair.
100% to do with the job description was to do the job that I did, but I got in trouble all the time for being in the dorms. I got in trouble all the time for hanging out.
Well, where are you supposed to be?
I was supposed to be in my office just doing paperwork.
Well, then how are you directing residents' life at that point?
That was my point exactly. But it was the weirdest office dynamic I've ever been at, and it's been the weirdest coworkers I've ever worked with. And so, I love Valley Forge. I love my degree. I love being with Dr. Meyer. I mean, no, Dr. Meyer. I don't know if you guys know this. I went to North Central University
Okay.
in Minnesota. Dr. Meyer taught like a 7 a.m. Old Testament survey class, and it was required of all freshmen. Guess who never took that class?
How did you get away with not taking it?
I did it by correspondence.
That's
So
fair.
yes. And then my friend dropped off my art project for the end of my appreciative art class at North Central. And some reason that professor he was way out there, he didn't score my final project. So I got a 0, and I didn't know about it until I came back from my summer break. And so I went to the professor. He's like, "Oh, I'll change your grade for you. You just have to talk to Dr. Meyer." Guess what? Dr. Meyer never changed the grade for me because it was past the date.
Doesn't sound like him at all.
So I had to redo the appreciation of art class at Valley Forge. It was nuts. But yes.
I'm like, I'm slowly realizing too. I'm a little worried about having you listen to some of these podcasts because I think you're going to hear stories that you didn't necessarily know, at things that maybe we kept from you or like were able to like. So
I actually think I would. I actually would be really surprised if I didn't know most of the stuff.
well, you'll definitely have to.
I'll have to listen, and then I'll let you know.
Yeah.
I'll keep a list going.
Yeah, keep us all in.
Because there's definitely some things that I did know about, but the way I would handle it is someone taught me a long, long time ago. It's like if you get someone and you trap them with both arms around them where they don't have a way out, they get into that fight and flight, and it always just explodes. And he's like, put one arm out there and give them a honorable way out. But I would never do anything unless I had everything figured out and everything was clear as day that someone did something. If something wasn't clear as day that they did if it didn't say so and so did so and so, I would never do anything with it, and I would just keep it in my little book. So I had a little book going of all these different stories I heard, and I always was just waiting to see if one day it would come up. Only time I ever broke that is if it was some guy who was like being abusive of a girl.
Sure.
And then I was like a hound on blood.
Do you still have this book?
No.
Oh man,
I don't know where it is.
That would be great to just to see the notes that you wrote down about different 24 Down members. Like, I think that'd be hilarious to.
No, it was just stories, like stories of weed or stories of drinking or something else like that.
So what year did you leave?
I left 2004, 5, 6. Was it 2007? Yeah.
Okay. So you were, because I came in, I think, fall of 06. So I was there 06, 07. Were you, but I think you were still there that next year, maybe half the year? Or was it
2008? I was at the library.
Okay. Did you finish off the calendar year or the scholastic year? Like,
yes. As an RD.
So you were 2007 spring semester was your last, or was it 2008 spring semester was your last?
No, I think it's 2007, isn't it? Yeah, I think it's 2007. Then 2008, I was at the library. Yeah, that has to be it.
Okay. Either way, you were gone. You were gone at this point, but like, I mean, and I've shared this on my episode, and a lot of other guys know this already, but like, just to, I guess, your little notebook that you were keeping. While you were there, I was a perfect like model student as far as like following most of the rules. I think I got some tattoo, maybe a tattoo or two while you were the RD, but like for the most part, following the rules. But I went through a very dark time at Valley Forge because of some of the stuff that happened with some of the leadership directly towards me. My last year there, I walked around campus drinking, like just literally had beer in a cup, and I put duct tape around the cup and just walked around campus. Like I just didn't.
You weren't the only one.
No, I know that, but so like I definitely had you still been there at the time, I definitely probably would have ended up in that book as well. So
Yeah. And
um,
then I always thought someone would come to the library and ask me something, and no one ever did.
let's get on to these next set of questions here. These are from Francis, and
Oh.
his first question is he wants to know what your first impression of 24 Down was.
So like of that space?
I'm guessing the way what he's wanting to know is like us at like the group that
Oh,
we're
when you
talking
guys
about.
first came.
Yeah, or started.
Yes, as freshmen.
Yeah, and then
I
some
was
of us.
super excited.
Yeah,
Yeah, because I think I've told you guys when you got there, 24 Down was that was the key example of racism at Valley Forge. they they would put people who were from minority groups would always go in there, and there would never be a sophomore in there except for maybe an RA. So they would put all the minority students there, and it was just a pit. My pastor's son from Allentown, he got put in there with his buddy, and they both were Puerto Rican, and it was like the building wasn't well maintained, the hallways weren't well maintained, and it was just, and everyone always just couldn't wait to leave there. They called it the jungle. I remember I was sitting there, I finally was RD, and I was welcoming everyone during the summer, and some kid that was black came in, and the kid's like, "Yeah, you must be down at the jungle." And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" And so I got the kid's name, and I did.
no, it's a
He was going to 24 Down.
yeah.
I changed it to 4 Down. I wouldn't. I was like, "Oh my goodness, I'm not letting that kid think he knows where he's going."
Right.
And so I really, really wanted just to get rid of that 100%. And when you guys came, and you guys were instant friends within like 3-4 days. I was so super excited. Like I was like, this is what I wanted. Is I wanted to see a really close floor, because that's the way it should be. And like 24 up was, there were students there were stories about students who were there that didn't know that they both lived on 24 up until May.
Right. Right.
Like they just never even ran into each other, which meant the RA never had like a floor meeting ever.
Right.
So when you guys got there, I was super excited, and your RA was super nervous.
Was this Carlos?
Yes.
Okay.
He was nervous because he was like, these guys are getting really, these guys are, he was super excited that you guys were getting close, but he was nervous where he didn't know how he was going to be able to turn 24 Down from having this negative connotation with a bunch of guys that, he might not be able to, because I charged him. I told him, listen, we need to get rid of this. And I want you to help me as much as you can. I want this to be where the community is the best. It's the smallest floor. Everyone's next to each other. Let's just, blow this thing up. And I remember him saying he was really nervous because he was like, I don't know if I can control these guys. And I thought that was awesome.
Yeah. So I mean, I came in because I think I came in a year after, maybe 2 years after like Buddha and Pete.
It was 1 year.
And it was
Yeah.
so like I came in and it was kind of already established. But the cool thing for me and then everybody after me as well is like it didn't matter that I wasn't there at the start. Like you're on the floor, like you're part of this family if you want to be. And I mean, you talk about Carlos. So like we brought this up on a few podcasts. Like we picked on Carlos, like for sure. We picked on him. We love the guy to death, like absolutely love the guy. But it was almost like a game for us to be like, how far can we push Carlos to see like, and I feel terrible now, like thinking of like some of the things we did, but like, yeah, I mean, we've talked about how nobody had their door closed ever. I mean, I'm talking like even at night when you're going to bed, doors were just open. Like it was like anytime you need to come in, come out of somebody's room. Most of the time we're hanging out in the hallway anyway. Um, so that's no, it's cool to hear that that you were excited about it, and it's cool to know that it wasn't, not that it's cool that it wasn't that way at one point, but it's cool to know that there was a change, and the community really became something real. And you talk about like the whole minority thing. I mean, like we had so many ethnicities within this. We had Koreans and Brazilians and like literally everything, and we didn't see that. We all just looked at each other as brothers. I remember like, you know, if it was the Koreans that were like, hey, we want to like make some Korean food, everybody's like, yep, we want to eat it. It was just like that acceptance and learning different cultures, and not uh even thinking one way or another about anything like that. So it's cool to hear your perspective on that too.
Yeah. So you want to know how the twins came to Valley Forge, though? That
Uh,
have you ever heard the story?
okay, well, let me. I will. Um, I will skip a question and ask. This is Francis's next question, because I think this is what you're getting into. Is he says, "What was your first impression of me and Gene? Tell us your side of the story."
So athletes came a week early,
Yeah.
and it was also leadership week. So pretty much the way I always explained it when I was a residence director, I'd kiss my wife goodbye August 1st, and I'd see her like Labor Day weekend. Like you're blitzing and going a million miles an hour, and we do a camping trip and we do whitewater rafting and everything else. So when they arrived, they were there, and I forgot who it is, but one of the students comes to me and says, "Mark, my refrigerator is gone. Like I just bought it, and I put it in my room. It was the first thing I did, and then I came back to my room and it was gone." And so I was like, "What?" So I decided I'd go and walk, and I'd just ask. So I just went quick and just asked real quick, and then I went back to my office, and I was like, "Oh." So like that mini fridge will just show back up to that other room, you know, and no one's going to get in trouble or nothing. And next day comes by, and the kid comes back and says, "Mark, my fridge still isn't there." I was like, "Oh, I really, really thought that, they would bring it back," because I'm imagining they just thought it just was left over the summer. They didn't know that you just bought and put it in there. And so he leaves, and then he comes back and he goes, "Mark, I found the refrigerator." So I went, and it was Gene and Francis and their friend Matt. Oh, I can't remember his last name. He hated my guts. So, and it was all because of this interaction. Like it started down. So I went in there and I said, "Listen, I can understand. You can think, this refrigerator just got left there, but he just bought it. He put it in. That was the first thing he did. Are you sure you guys don't have it?" "No." And I said, "Really? Because I've been told that you have it." "No." I was like, "Can you move the blanket?" Like there was only one blanket where the refrigerator could be, and it was there. And I remember I was like, "Oh my goodness." So I actually had to go and talk to Mac, the athletic director, and tell him what happened, because I think all I did was just turn around. I was like, "Just give him his refrigerator back." I remember doing that and going. And I do remember the twins actually were really, like, they showed up in my office and were super apologetic. And I remember them, I think they stopped by my office for like the first 10 days of school,
Yeah.
just to say hi. Because like I could generally tell that they felt bad, but I feel like they thought they were gonna start the worst thing ever. But I mean, that was really what happened. Was they just got there, but they did say their friend Matt was the one that was responsible for doing it, which I don't know if that's true or not.
Well, you'll have to. So in Francis's episode, he goes into detail about this story too. So it's interesting to hear like the two different sides of the story. And I mean, they're very similar. So but it's cool to like hear both sides and hear like what they were thinking at the time. Now to hear your side and what you were thinking at the time, I think that's pretty cool. Francis got one more question. Wait, no, he's got two more questions. Sorry. His next question is he wants to know what the most difficult part of being RA was.
RA or RD?
Oh, he said RA, but he meant RD for sure.
Was the meetings
The
and having to
3-hour
work
meeting?
with I had 1 week where I had 32 hours of meetings. It was deadly. And so like that was really hard, and just certain people that were my coworkers were really difficult dealing with. So that was the hardest part. And so when I used to youth pastor and children's pastor, when I got really, really frustrated, I would go and I'd go to the preschool and I'd play with blocks with the kids there, or read a book. And when I was at Valley Forge, I'd go and play Tekken. So a lot of times I was just really frustrated.
Well, Francis's last question, and don't get into this yet because this is something I want to spend some time with. So just give a yes or no answer to this question. His question is: Have you ever seen the movie 300?
I knew that was going to be the question. I still have never seen it.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So
I actually went out of my way actually to never watch it.
all right. Well, we'll get into the whole 300.
Left a
thing
bad taste in my mouth.
We'll get into that in a little bit for sure. All right. So these next questions come from Andrew Kindler. His first question is: Do you remember when they wanted to add one more person to room 117 so Yugi could be with them?
Yes. Well, they went in there and they all four were like, "Can we please work this out?" So I had to actually go through and check what the fire limit was, because every room was full.
Sure.
Like that's never happened in 24 Down history. And so every building has a limit of how many people you can have. And then and all that in that document. Well, no one could tell me how many people I could have on that floor. Like I think I had to actually talk to like I think I had to talk to like 5 or 6 people to figure out how many people we legally could have in that building, which was really funny. And that was the one that did it, because it went from a triple to a quad.
Yeah. So Andrew's side of the story is he just remembers the look on your face of being like, wait, you guys want to take a triple, which is already, I mean, the rooms are already small, and you want to stick a fourth person in there. But like, again, that kind of goes to like 24 Down and how close we were. Like, we didn't care, you know?
Yeah. Oh, I was super excited too. Because it is. People would never want to do a triple. Triple is like the hardest thing to fill.
Right. So his next question is, he says, why did you agree that I should be an RA of 24 Down?
I absolutely wanted him to be. That was my pick.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was head and shoulders. And I wanted Mr. Rizzo to be his assistant RA.
I'm trying to remember. I can't remember who Andrew's ARA was. Because after Carlos and Donovan, it was Andrew, but I don't remember who his ARA was.
I don't remember either.
Because
that was after I was gone.
It was a kid named Ty. That's who it was. But yeah, so Andrew, Andrew's, his personality kind of reminds me of yours in the way that like you both are, you will lay down the law and everything, but you'll do it in I'm going to sit down and talk to you eye to eye. Like, I'm not coming down on you. Let me just, actually sit with you and explain why this, so I think Andrew was actually a really good pick as well. So, he wants to know what your fondest memory of Valley Forge is.
My fondest?
Yeah.
Besides meeting my wife and the birth of my first child.
Well, I mean, that probably is your fondest.
Yeah. Well, I still remember because I went to North Central and I worked as a youth pastor 4 years before I went there. And then when I left there, I went to Florida and then I went to California. And then I was in Massachusetts working at a camp. And then I went to Valley Forge to finish up. And all my friends all my friends that were there and everything else thought it was their God-given like mission to find a wife for me. And my plan was just to be single my whole life. Like that was just my plan. I was just going to stay busy, not make much money, and that's just shouldn't have to drag someone into that. So they so Susie actually she just showed up, and she was a late transfer too. So that's probably my fondest memory.
That's good. I mean, that's a fair answer. His last thing is not a question. He just wanted to say thank you for being an amazing RD.
Well, thank you for being an amazing person. But he was the perfect RA for me. Like I could tell he would do exactly what you said. He'd tell you what the rule is, but he wouldn't do it with a stick and walk away. Like,
Right.
He'd make sure he hit you with a stick, and then help you pick up the pieces later.
For sure.
So
For sure.
yes.
All right. These next set of questions come from Wolfie. He wants to know what the worst thing you ever saw was during a room inspection.
It wasn't even it is a girl's dorm. There was a my coworker went into the dorm and then like saw what was on the table and then left and came back to me. So then I went in there and it was like it kind of looked like a satanic altar.
Really?
Yes, I had like these candles of like angels with their heads cut off, and it was the craziest, weirdest thing ever.
That's crazy.
And that was really weird. And her boyfriend drove a hearse. It was pretty funny. But I actually had them over to my house and had dinner with them.
Recently?
No, like after I found that.
Okay.
And just trying to, because I was a punk kid growing up.
Sure.
And then I had my own little music label, and I had a couple of bands that were pretty big. So I was at underground scene all the time. So I remember telling them, was like, no, there's just a lot of weird Christians who are in the underground scene. I was like, she's not a Satanist, but that was pretty funny.
That's crazy.
But then I got an email from Dr. Meyer. I have to get this off my chest. I'm still bitter about this one.
All right.
So the email was like, Dr. Meyer, this is from 24 Up. My room is so cold that I actually am having a hard time typing this letter to you. It is freezing. I can see my breath. No one has done anything to help me. Can you please help me from this room of despair? So Dr. Meyer forwarded me the email and said, what's going on? I walked into the room, and the stench of unwashed clothing and the realization that no one actually did a room inspection in the last month and a half was pretty huge.
Sure.
But they really got into vinyl records, and they bought like thousands of them, and they lined their whole bed with vinyl records. And you remember how you have the stupid heater? The radiator was underneath the bed. He had so much clothes and vinyl records around his bed that it actually was insulating his room from the heater because it was full blast. He actually warped all his vinyl records.
That's terrible.
I felt bad for him, but man, I was so mad.
Yeah, for sure.
Why didn't you talk to me?
Yeah.
You get your mail.
All right, so this next question from Wolfie. This is something that Wolfie started asking everybody that comes on, and I think it's a pretty cool question. If you could have one building at Valley Forge besides 24 named after you, which building would it be?
The library.
Which makes
the
sense.
Library.
Yeah, and for you, I think that answer makes perfect sense.
I love the library. I was there, especially when I was a student. I was there nonstop.
All right, so the next set of questions here come from Colleen, and she wants to know if you can narrow it down to one thing that made you fall in love with 24 Down. What was it?
Oh, just you guys were crazy, and I loved it.
Nice. That's
like
a good
you
answer.
Just have fun. You guys were fun.
Yeah. So this question, She asked this question and then she got correct. Well, I'll just read the question at first. She wants to know if you think that you have any gray hair that was caused by 24 down. Which then Francis corrected her and said, "Well, he doesn't have any hair at all." And then,
Facial hair?
and so then she said, "Okay, well, does the baldness was any of that caused by 24 down?" I
No,
think,
I had IT job. I had an IT job for like 8 months,
yeah,
and I lost all my hair. I was like 21.
really.
Yeah, it was horrible.
So, do you think that, um, okay, any gray hair in your facial beard? I think the point is, was there a stress level that we gave you?
No, you guys were like my least stress.
Really?
The married dorms.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. That was like the only time I ever had interaction on that was either someone was dying or someone was sleeping around with someone else and their marriage was gone and they left their whole apartment open. So like that was horrible. The apartments were like I'd walk in, they're like, "Hey Mark, you like our final four um bracket?" And they wrote their whole bracket on like a 9-foot wall. And it's like, oh, or no, even better was the traveling worship team.
Okay.
They decided to have in their apartment that they most were together. They had soft air gun wars.
Oh, we had those in ours too. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, but you guys didn't leave like broken window. Every window was broken,
Oh, see,
and every door had a million little pebbles. I think it was a $12,000 bill.
oh wow. See, we did them, but we did them out in the hallway. Um, and I don't think we really. I mean, maybe we ruined the walls a little. I don't remember, but I remember really upsetting Henry, our janitor, because he
Oh,
kept
I loved
Oh,
Henry.
we all loved Henry too, but
Henry
like he
was the
kept
best.
kept coming in and being like, "What are all these little like plastic balls all over the ground?" You know. But it's funny.
You, I don't know if you, well, you, I think only, I don't know who it was. I walked in and someone had a soft air gun
Yeah.
and they totally thought they were busted and they were dead. I was like, I just don't want to see holes. And just kept walking.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, again, that's kind of like to me that like that's something that as a student like you can respect that. You're not saying like, "Oh, I saw something like let me figure out how I can get you in trouble." Like, "Hey, here's the rule. Don't put any holes in it, and if you don't, then we're good," you know? And so I think that was a huge dynamic of your character and why we all love you. Um, Colleen's last thing is she wants to know when you're getting the 24 down tattoo.
No tattoos.
Well, that doesn't answer the question though.
No, never.
Never.
I
All
will
right.
never get a tattoo. Like, I like this shirt. I just don't want to wear this shirt for the rest of my life.
That's fair, I guess. That's fair. Um, all right. So these questions here come from Matt Wolf. His first question is, who's better at Tekken, you or Matthias?
Oh, Matthias, but I had him. I had him. We were tied 2-2.
Yeah.
And Matthias really got really scared. And I mean, he got very serious. And like it was neck to neck. And he won that last one. Matthias never played me the rest of my life. He's never played again. Jerk. I saw him like 18 months ago.
Yeah.
And we were talking about it. And then he lives by me in Hershey, I think. So we actually talked about having a get together for another Tekken match.
Nice. Yeah, you should definitely do it for sure.
We should live stream
and
it.
film it. Yeah, I was just gonna say for sure. You know how many 24 down people will watch that? If nobody else, at least us. Um, he's got another question too that I'm gonna skip. He wants to hear your side of the 300 flag burning, all that kind of stuff, which we will get into that. So, speaking of flag burning, the next question here comes from Phil Anderson. He said he wants to know if you still play Halo.
I really didn't play Halo a lot.
Okay.
Everyone always thought I played it like 24/7.
Right.
I'm not a first-person shooter guy.
Okay.
I
So
like
you don't
time strategy.
So you don't play anymore to answer his question.
No. Though I do have the Xbox Game Pass and it has all of them on there.
Now, do you remember? I'm sure you do. You remember Phil and Alex Anderson?
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember? Because his next question is, um, they had a video, Campus Police. Do you remember that video at all?
I don't think I saw the video.
So, because he wants to know what you thought of Alex's impression of you during that video is. At some point, it's on YouTube. Phil uploaded it to YouTube, I don't know, a year or two
Yes.
ago. So
I want to see it now.
after this, I will send you the link for it because
Yes.
I guess Alex does an impression of you at some point in that. So, um, next set of questions here come from your arch nemesis Matthias, and so this is a little bit more of a maybe a serious question, I guess, depending. He said, tell us about your political journey. You're very outspoken on your views now. Have you always been and we just never noticed? Um, and you didn't have a Facebook at the time. So
No, I've always been a very political kid. Like when I was like 12, 13 years old, I used to go around, knock on the door and hand out the little flyers. And then me and my dad, we would do we'd work at the poll and I would hand out stuff. And then election night, like ever since I was like 7 years old, I would stay up for election night to see, what has happened. And so that always was. But my journey is I was actually one of the founding members of the Young Republican uh, Young Republican Party, which was actually a pretty big deal, and I was really big into that. And then the big thing that I liked about working in the church and stuff like that is I loved working with kids in the projects. Like I loved kids in the projects. I loved kids in lower income, and so I would do everything I could to try to help them out. And through that, I always thought, a good conservative is a compassionate conservative, because I'm still morally, I'm very, very still. I don't drink blue colored cans. I don't swear. I really don't even watch radar movies. Like I don't even really like movies and things like that. But I guess socially I was a lot more liberal because I would see these kids that were hungry and hurting and like I my church in Massachusetts, we had $75 budget where every week I would give peanut butter and jelly and bread to like 3 or 4 different apartments in the project so that they could feed the kids, and they would do that. And so I was always doing that stuff, and I didn't think anyone ever thought of me as being a bad person for doing that. You wouldn't think anyone would ever be mad for doing that. And I was youth pastoring in Florida, um, and I started doing children's church in the projects in the basketball court, and I actually had 13 churches working with me. And so it was really cool, and the police were with me, and I actually preached the Martin Luther King um, um, weekend sermon with all the different churches and everything else. So I was very much involved in that stuff. And then I found out that there was a nationwide Christian radio station in our area, and I found out that the guy was actually preaching against me. Said I was social gospel, and I was sowing discord and confusion among the gospel because I worked with the Catholic Church and I worked with Methodists and Presbyterians and stuff like that, and he thought that presented a confusing message of Jesus to others, which I was like, wait a minute. You gotta be kidding me. We did I think we did 50,000 pounds of food in our first year, and like literally tons of clothing, because I would just pick up everyone's instead of them dropping them off to the Salvation Army, all these different churches had bins, and we would pick it up and we would sort it out, and people would pick up the clothing. And so then I realized, man, there's just some people that just hate poor people. And so that always got a little burn my in me, and I started seeing it. And the church I was at in California, it was a big church, and the pastor's sister was actually a Democrat. She was like the first born again Catholic, born again Democrat I've ever met. other than that, I did know, and I mean, I would work with Church of God in Christ and a lot of other African American churches, and I was actually the interim church at a pastor at a missionary Baptist church, and a lot of the African American church back then, probably 90% of them voted Democrat, and I had to be okay with that, and I was, and so then my journey goes to where when we moved to Allentown, and we lived right in the middle of the city, we moved in June, and October before, we didn't find that out until we moved in, the day we moved in. But a guy got shot and killed actually in our flower bed of our townhouse there.
Wow.
And then got woken up in the middle of the night, like 2, 3 in the morning with gunshots, and there'd be shell casings on our porch. And my father-in-law, he's a preacher from West Virginia, and he hates cities. And I had to yell at him to try to stop him to look in. I realized that there was a prostitute just went into a car next to his truck, and I didn't want him to look and see what she was doing. So I yelled to tell him to stop, and I was too late. He kind of noticed there were some things going on. But doing that, I really found a lot of people were just anti-poor and pro-rich. They thought rich people were blessed from God and were the best thing ever. And I grew up in Connecticut, where I had friends that were multi-millionaires, where they're never going to have to work a day in their life. And when it says, you have to work for your food by the sweat of brow, I had tons of friends. They're never going to have to sweat a day of their life to eat. They could just sit home with mom and be fine. And they had a lot of emotional issues. And, my teenage friends that were rich, they had a lot of things. And so I was like, when I read the scripture and what Jesus says, it really is opposite of what I was seeing. It seemed like everything was about power and about being rich and having materialistic things, and that wasn't what I was about. And so I finally left the Republican Party when Sarah Palin came on to town. When she showed up, I was like, I was done. And what's really funny is there was a couple of friends of mine that were students. When the first year I was residence director, they put a Democrat political sign in their window, and I actually got phone calls from leadership to have it taken down. And I actually got it to where they stayed. I was like, you can't do that. I was like, that's their First Amendment right to, it's not breaking any college rule. I was like, so, and so that was pretty funny. But yeah, when Sarah Palin came on, I just became a independent. And my son that had cancer, his best friend ended up being the mayor's son that lived half a block up from us. And so he was Democrat. He was pro-life Democrat, went to Moody Bible Institute and was a Democratic mayor of the city of Allentown. And he let his 7-year-old or 8-year-old son become best friends with a kid with terminal cancer. So I was like, I love these guys.
Sure.
And so they became members of our family. And I remember they were like, oh, you Republicans. I was like, I haven't voted for a Republican in like a long time now. I was like, I voted for a lot of Democrats. And so I've always had this dream of being a school board director. And school board director is the greatest thing ever decided upon by politicians, so that the local community can blame all their education woes on their local school board and take the bullet for everybody else. So usually I have a hard time getting anyone to run. Like there's 5 or 6 openings every election period. And so I actually had a couple people that said they wanted me to run. They were going to back me up, including my friend Stuart, the mayor, and some other people in town that didn't get along with the mayor. And so I thought I was going to be a shoo-in. And the issue was I was independent. And they're like, we can't give you all this money. And these people are like, is he a Democrat? Like they all just assumed I was. So I actually signed up, and I'll tell you, it took me 8 years really until I was okay to say, you know what, I am a Democrat. Like for the most part, I don't agree with a lot of the things that they do, but I'm okay with saying that. I love my city more than my political party that left me a long time ago. So as I was running, the Republican Party of my area spent tens of thousands of dollars on mailings to say what an evil, horrible person I am, and that I would be a bad candidate because I was friends with the mayor. Yeah, and I remember I was at the polling station on election day, and the guy that was the Republican chairman was sticking his tongue at me and going boo, and then stood next to me and said, "Whatever you do, don't vote for this guy."
That's ridiculous.
And my oldest daughter, she's half Puerto Rican, half African American, and I made her switch to become Republican so that she could get signatures for me. That was the worst idea ever. Like, I think it's like if you live in the city and you're racist, you're gonna just naturally go towards the Republican Party. So when she would go there, I mean, she got called all kinds of things, but she knocked on like, I think it was like 30 homes, and she got 0 signatures for me because I had to get 200 signatures for Republicans and 200 Democrat in February, and it was freezing. And I really didn't. I enjoyed meeting people, but it was really cold. And then I would go down those same place that she did. I didn't know it, and I got like 25 signatures out of 30 doors.
Wow.
I was like, wow, this thing's really whacked. and then, as we like to say, the Donald effect came in, and I just, as a Christian and when I read the Bible, I just feel like the Great Commission of Christ has been put to the back burner to power and back to the great holy empire, and we now have Christianity without Jesus, and it breaks my heart and it makes me sad. So I get very, very vocal, but I try to be as kind and as compassionate, considerate, and I've never blocked anyone. I've never said anything, but I think on 4 years ago, I think I lost 480 friends.
Wow.
On Facebook.
Really?
That was pretty good.
Wow.
And that my ex aunt, she divorced my uncle. She said I was a disappointment to the family. I remember. And
So-
then last week I got a kid. There was a kid in my church that lived with me for like a year and a half, and I think he was drunk. But he called and said, and he just started ripping into me because I don't support Donald Trump, and I don't support the troops. But my son works for Department of Defense and is in National Guard, staff sergeant. So that's how I came. That's my big journey. So now my thing is I just wanted to try to, if people put posts on there, I want them to know that there's another side to what they're trying to say. And hopefully they can engage and kind of calm down.
So what's crazy to me, and we don't have to go into politics too much or anything like that, but what's crazy to me is like
I love politics.
I'm in my mid 30s, so I haven't been around like that long, but I swear, like, I remember a time where you were allowed to have a different opinion than somebody else and it was fine. But I feel like in today's climate, like it just one way or another, no matter like what side you're on, I feel like a majority of people are so closed off to having open and honest discussions and listening to the other side, just listening, whether you agree or not, like just listen to the other side. It's really interesting to hear your journey. I've seen a lot of your posts and stuff like that, and like you said, nothing you say is, you're not attacking, you're not sitting there trying to win somebody. You're just, here's what I believe, and I it's a shame because I wish this country could have those discussions again and just be open, no matter what side you're on.
And they're happening. Like
For
most of my
sure.
family, most of my family, and definitely my wife's family, are Trump supporters, and my family absolutely loves me. Now, my in-laws side of the family, they might block me and my wife now, but but yeah, it just, there are places where just people need to just learn to listen, Like,
Sure.
I don't understand if you're going to post something and you're going to be offended that someone disagrees with it, then why are you posting it?
Right, for
Is it
sure.
just a, oh, should I use the horrible Reddit term? Like, is it just a circle jerk? It's like, hey, this is my pro thing.
That's awesome. Well, the next thing is not a question, and it kind of falls in line here. Um, and I think you'll get a kick out of it. This is from Big Daddy Rick Feltenberger. He just says, "Hey Telesha, Trump 2020, yeah," with a bunch of
I
exclamation.
love Rick.
Yeah,
Him and me, we can absolutely have conversations. He doesn't take it personal. I really enjoyed talking with him.
for sure. And so that's like a perfect example. Like two people that might have be completely different side of the political scheme, but at the end of the day, guess what? Like they love each other. They can have conversation. It doesn't matter. They're not name calling and it's whatever. It's crazy. All right, we got two more sets of questions here, and these are the ones that came in last minute here. I haven't even read these yet, so I don't know what to expect. First set of questions here is from Rizzo, and his first question is, "What was the closest thing you saw to the bond that 24 Down had in any of the other dorms?"
4 down before you
Yeah,
guys got there.
yeah,
I mean, and that's, I mean, I have 4 down shirts in my home still. Like, I never lived there, but I was, my best friend lived there, and then I would go there, and then the youth pastor at my church, we'd just go down there and hang out for 2 days
yeah,
and just have a bunch of fun. And so 4 down is definitely the closest thing. And you guys even did better than they did
yeah,
in terms of just the community. Like, 4 down, that those guys, like, they'll still be like 15 of them will get together for a wedding or something else, and they'll just always post and have things.
yeah. No, that's cool. I mean, I got married last year, and I had a handful of 24 down people that came, and probably more that would have come had I had the room to invite more people. Like, and so it's just, same with like there's most of the 24 down family like will just drop whatever they're doing to go support somebody else, no matter how many states away they are or anything like that. It's cool. It's cool to know that 4 down was that same way, and that community existed elsewhere as well. I think that's pretty cool. His next question is, what was the most memorable moment working at Valley Forge?
I gotta be careful. There are ones where I'm just super pissed off still to this day. Um, so there's a bunch of them, but probably my favorite one though is there was a whole group that got kicked out, removed from the community, as we like to say, and so I would get their ID cards, and I'd put all their ID cards on my desk. I don't know if anyone ever saw it, but there was ID cards, and those were all the kids that I had to boot out.
Oh wow, I didn't
And
know
so
that.
I'd feel really bad for them. And so, I mean, I would flip through it and I would pray for them and everything else. And one of them, I was the great confessor, by the way. Like, if anyone did anything bad, it didn't matter if they did it in the other dorms and they weren't mine, they would still come to me. So, like, a lot of girls would come to me to confess, things they did. Or I don't know how this happened, but if anything homosexual happened, they like immediately came to me.
Yeah,
Like, because I guess they would see how I just treated it just the same as if it was a man or a woman, and if it's two guys or it's two girls. To me, I felt like we had our system set up to where you take a break, you come back, and you get to be a part of the community again. And I really liked it. So I had a huge stack. I must have had like 24. And my favorite memories are when those people come back to the school and I get to hand them their old ID cards.
that's cool.
So that's probably my favorite memories.
That's pretty cool. All right, his next question, I think, is his last one, and we're going back to Tekken here. He wants to know how many L's you took to Matthias in Tekken.
Oh, probably 40. I was always bound. I don't think he ever swept me.
No.
No, I would always get one or two because it's best out of five.
Oh, okay.
But or is it best out of five? I think it is. Yeah, it's best out of five. And so I'd always get one or two, but like at the beginning, Matthias was way better than I was because I hadn't played it for a while. Like
Right.
I played it with my friend Adam. Him and me would sit down and we'd play we'd start playing a fighting game. And like the first five was like, oh, good job, buddy. Oh, good. And then then it would be like quiet the next five sets. And then after about 11 or 12, it'd be like, do you want to go outside? You can finish this outside if you want. I always wanted to. I remember me and Adam, we went 99-99, and the next one wins.
Wow.
That was a great moment. So I hadn't played it for years, and when I got in there, Matthias was like, he was probably 5 or 6 levels higher than I was. But then he could see I was getting better, and then he quit.
Yeah, we'll have to maybe we'll have to get that rematch, that final rematch going at some point somehow. All right, so these last set of questions here come from Buddha. His first question is, do you remember me doing anything questionable or against the rules at Valley Forge? I don't even remember.
I don't think so. Buddha always was like, I think he had a halo when he came in. Like it never left.
Right.
I loved Buddha.
Yeah, Buddha, like,
And he would have fun. Like he was that way because that's who he was. It wasn't like he was trying to make him look better than somebody else or anything else like that. But then he would be laughing and having fun with everybody else. I always respected that.
yeah, I've talked about this in a few of the episodes, and specifically his. So like when I first came, because 24 down, like I said, it was already established. When I first came, I showed up a few days. Like we had to report. I think freshmen had to be there that Monday for start teams. I think it was, and I don't know what the reason was, but I came the Saturday prior. Um, Maybe because I was out of state and I just wanted to get there. I don't remember what it was, but anyway, so I came there that Saturday, and the only people on 24 when I walked in, Donovan, our ARA, he was there. Well,
Donovan Reed.
yep. So he was welcoming people, and then the Brazilian twins, because they had to show up early for soccer.
Mm-hmm.
It was their first year and it was my first year. So me and the Brazilian twins, that's how we became so close, because we were like, I was they were the first ones I knew, vice versa. And I remember telling Buddha that like we the three of us kind of like felt that 24 down bond right away, but early on felt like, okay, we're new, we're kind of on the outs of this and we want to be involved. And Buddha was the first person to like openly come to us and like welcome us in and be like, yeah, hey, you are part of this family. And then kind of we had that feeling of like, yeah, this is great, like we are part of this family. So I give Buddha credit for that. I can't think of anything Buddha ever did as far as breaking a rule.
I don't think so. Oh wait, he pushed somebody, and it broke something.
Oh, that was me. Okay, I think.
Yes.
Okay,
Wait.
so we had a floor meeting.
Yes.
We did the 24 down wrestling stuff for a while, and it was
With
getting into
theme
the
songs.
well, yeah, we like did wrestling too. We would go
Yes.
to it was
That was
where
in my book.
where was it? It was nice. I did make your book. So it was, I don't remember that it was it Solomon's Porch maybe? It was kind of behind the bookstore. You remember where the bookstore attached to like the building with the chapel?
Oh, that's yeah, because original Sound Sports was all the way in the opposite side of
You're
campus in the
right.
front, and
You're
then we
right.
moved it back there,
Yeah, whatever it
which
was
I
called.
hated.
Yeah, it was. No, maybe it wasn't even Solomon's Porch. It might have been the Commuters Lounge or something. Whatever it was. It was
Oh,
basically
that was
this
my
like
jam spot.
it was like there was nothing in this like area. I mean, there was things, but like nobody ever hung out there. So we'd go there late at night and do wrestling and everything. But it got to a point, I don't remember why, where we had to. I think we had to like stop doing. Oh no, because at first we started doing it in the hall, like actually in 24 down.
Yes, and poor Henry came to me and said, I don't know why there's these holes that keep showing up.
Yeah.
And I have to keep doing it. Mark, I don't want to get these guys in trouble, but I don't want to keep fixing these holes.
Right. So
Yes.
basically what happened was there was a floor meeting after we had been told, okay, you can't do the wrestling inside 24 down anymore. There was a floor meeting.
That was the Henry met with me in my office.
Yeah. So we had a floor meeting, and it was for, I don't know if it was like a welcome back floor meeting or whatever. And Buddha and I went to, I don't remember if it was Carlos or Andrew at the time. And we were like, hey, um, listen, I know we're not allowed to do the whole 24 down wrestling thing anymore, but like a lot of people within the floor, they like the characters. Like, can we just do one small little thing? We're gonna do this little fight, and we're just gonna take it right outside. And so we got the okay, yeah, you can do that. So we like start this little fight, not doing anything. And as we take it outside,
nerds.
yeah, well, for sure. As we take it outside, he like throws me to like go through the door, the glass door, and we hit it so hard that it just shattered. So
yes,
that's
yes.
what it was.
Yes.
But that wasn't an intentional rule break. I guess, and
No.
he technically had permission. We did ask permission. So I would
But
say
that would be he did break a window.
yeah, that's true. That's true. But I don't think he broke a rule per se.
I think thou shall not break windows is in there.
I'll have to find the handbook at some place.
I hated that handbook.
So you kind of touched on his last question a little bit. If you want to go into it any more in quick detail, you can. But his last question is, how did the legacy of 24 Down begin?
Yeah, I would just say me and Carlos sitting down and me telling Carlos, I don't want everyone leaving. Like, my goal is that when next year comes around, these guys are returning. They're returners. And
Right.
so I think that's really the beginning was and like Carlos was 100% in there. He's like, oh, man. And, and then he returned himself. I was like, you got one more year. Why don't you just plan on doing this for 2 years and we'll get this turned around.
Yeah.
And it happened quick. Because there was no community the year before you got there.
Really?
Yeah, like they really are the ones. Like it just started a year before you did.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I tell Buddha, like I've told Buddha, and I've said it on this podcast, like I consider Buddha the godfather of 24 Down because like I know like he was there for the start, and he was
Plus
probably
he would wear the suits.
Yeah, and he was probably a catalyst of making sure everybody, and obviously like you and Carlos as well, like kind of behind the scenes pulling some strings, but like, yeah. So I think that's a perfect answer for that question.
Yeah,
So.
he definitely was a answer to prayer. All you guys were,
Well,
even though you didn't feel like it most of the time.
that's true to an extent, yeah. Well, that'll kind of wrap up the questions. And the last thing that I have to get to is kind of it's a one story that kind of leads into two stories, and that is the 300 and the flag burning stuff. So we're gonna, because I don't know if you remember the exact timeline of all this.
I don't. I think of them as two exactly distinct situations.
They are so linked together. So let me give you a quick refresher, and then I want to hear like your perspective on all of this. And we'll, your perspective first on the 300, and then your perspective second on the flag. So they're linked together because the night that we all went to see 300 was the same night that they took the flag, stole it, recorded that video. It was the same exact night. What's crazy is like those are two very big stories that do feel very separate, but they happen on the exact same night. So,
And they're two different things.
For sure.
I didn't even remember it being the same night. That's so funny. Yes.
Well, no, go ahead. I'll let you go.
So this was my plan. I remember sitting there. My plan was Andrew's going to be the RA and Tom's going to be the assistant RA. And by the way, did you know the assistant RA was my creation?
Was it?
Yes. They used to have these things called life groups.
Okay.
And when I got hired, I think Dr. Mortensen was super excited for me to come on board. And the two RDs that left, just before I started were excited to be there. And so they were like, yes, you're going to overtake this life group and you're going to turn it around and it's going to be awesome. And then I showed up and everyone hated my leadership style. I was like, what do you mean? Why are you mad at me? But it was like my coworkers didn't like my leadership style. The life group leaders didn't like my leadership style. And I was like, man, they're kind of stuck with me. Because they're like, when you work in a church, if they don't like your leadership style, they just go somewhere else. You know what I mean? And like they're invested, they have thousands of dollars. So it was pretty frustrating. But so I gave it a year go, and then I decided we treat life group leaders like they're assistant RAs, assistant, resident assistant, double assistant. And we were going to call them ARAs. And I was like, might as well, let's just make it official, and then we'll have a life group leader. Like we'll defund the life group leader who was doing Bible studies and doing assistant RA things. We'll defund them and put them into two separate groups. And so when I did that, I wrote down my dream team of everyone that I wanted to be assistant RAs, and I had them all. Every single one of them was all on board, and I was super excited. And I was like, oh, this is going to take 24 like to a whole new level. Because, when I got there, all the RAs looked the same. They all looked the same. They talked the same. I swear they had conversations with each other on how much they loved, how awesome they were. And and so we changed it. Like I presented it to Dr. Mortensen. He loved it. The other RDs loved it. So we did it, and I was super excited. And then in my little book came one of my coworkers who didn't really like 24 goes, Mark, do you know that your new assistant RA is planning on going to C300, which is a rated R movie? And I was like, no, I did not know that. And she was like, yes, I think you need to do something about that. And I was like, oh. And so I remember I went to Tom and I was like, Tom and Andrew, I had them both come to my office, I think it was. And I was like, this is what was told to me. Is this what you guys are doing? I was like, can I please beg you, please? Don't do it. I remember Tom's like, it's my birthday. It's happening. I don't care.
Right.
And I was like, oh, come on. You can watch it somewhere else some other time. Just I was like, I want my dream team. Because I loved Tom. And I felt like him being that assistant RA, I was like, oh, this is going to make his time at Valley Forge so much better. And he's going to help everyone else. And now it's just got thrown away. So I remember it was happening. And so I went and I was like, oh, do you really have to do that? And he's like, yes, it's my birthday. I'm doing it. And I'm like, oh, all right. So we did that. And I said, now your assistant RA might be up. I don't know if I can keep it. And went into my 3-hour home life meeting. And that was like agenda number 2. And so he was put onto the executioner's plate of assistant RAs. It was a sad day. I did not like that. I was like, he did one thing. He purposely broke a rule, Mark. I was like, other people don't purposely break rules,
right?
And they're like, no, not of this caliber. I was like, really? So yeah, that was a sad moment. But yeah, that was I just remember I heard about it, asked him, and he was like, nope, it's my birthday. Stupid rule.
So Andrew did not go. Do you know that?
Did not. Yes, I remember him telling me he wasn't going to do that.
Yes. So Andrew did not.
Well, he had the big financial, like if he lost the RA, I mean, that was thousands of dollars.
Right.
Stuff he lost. Plus, I think he was really all for, he really wanted to be the RA.
For sure. And I think he genuinely did not want to break a rule. I'm sure he would have loved to be there with all of us, but like he did generally was like he had that check in his heart that I cannot do this. And I respect him for that. So I didn't realize my memory is not the best as far as like every single detail, but I didn't realize that you guys knew prior to us even going that we were going. Um,
Yes.
so lo and behold, I don't know, 25, 30 of us. I don't remember how many it was because it was guys and some of the girls that would always hang out with all 24 Down group went to King of Prussia, the theater at King of Prussia to see the movie 300. Um,
I actually was out there when you guys were leaving.
were you?
Yeah,
Okay.
because I mean, my apartment's right next to you guys.
Yes.
And I was like, oh, they're leaving. And I went out there and I said hi to everybody.
I see. I kind of maybe might remember that. I don't know. So we all went to 300, and um, without throwing anybody's name under the bus, there was two females that did not come to watch the movie with us, but they did come to the theater, waiting for us to get out of the theater to write down every single name to then turn us in.
No, you got to tell me who.
Um,
You can't not throw this. These
so
are the things that drove me crazy.
it was I don't remember her last name. Allie?
Wait, Short Alley?
Yes.
Oh, I know why she did that.
Yes. So it was Allie and it was
We called her Munchkin.
yes, it was it was Allie and it was Christy Hartman. But Christy
Yes, my basketball player.
she did not want to do that. She kind of, from what I've heard, is she kind of got like dragged there by Allie, not knowing that was what was going on, and then Allie just kind of like just did it. And so this led to then Colleen was there, and Colleen had some choice words, some that I will not repeat right now.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, and so there was that whole thing. So now it's like blown out of proportion. So it didn't take that long before everybody in the school I pretty much knew. Oh, hey, 24 Down went to see 300.
Yes.
Now I don't remember, and maybe you might remember. Did we all just get just a fine?
You got a $5 fine.
Okay, and that was it.
That was it.
Now, how did that? What was the behind the scenes of that? If you
So it was on the agenda
okay.
about, and they said, "What do you think?" I was like, I gave you guys a fine, like you guys went on a Friday.
I think
I
so.
I did it Monday morning because my meeting was Tuesday.
Yeah.
And that way I could go into the meeting and said, "Well, I fined them all."
Yeah.
So I I did that, and I think I talked to all of you. I think I walked down the hallway and just said, "Listen," and I had a list of everybody. I said, "I gave you a $5 fine."
Yep.
Because to me, that was just, it was even then, like we were looking at trying to get rid of the radar movie policy.
Sure.
Like that was my baby, and I thought I had it beat. We were going to use the Catholic Archbishop's movie list, and they would list out like what's bad about it. And so like some radar movies were like, they said were absolutely good to go and see, and then other ones that are PG, they would say, this is just not even worth the money that they threw on to make this thing. And so I just did all the fines and went into the meeting, and I knew there was no way I could save him from the assistant RA being taken away. There was just everyone was pissed.
Sure.
And I said, listen, if that's their greatest form of rebellion, is that they went and saw a movie that really isn't like, it's just radar for violence and isn't some sexual or some weird wacky thing. I was like, I think we don't need to really worry about it. I was like, if we hit them harder about that, then it'll just cause them to want to rebel even more to get a bigger reaction. So I was like, just they they broke the policy. I gave them all the fines. They all got their fines, and I just say we move on.
Yeah. Well, I
And
mean, it's cool to hear the backstory of like kind of what like the meetings, what in general what was said in the meetings and everything like that.
yeah, there was a lot of people that are really pissed.
Oh, I'm
But then I'm
sure.
like, I know your people done a ton of stuff.
Right, right. Well, like you said, I mean, there was definitely people that did not like us. There was another. I mean, I know of another male RD that did not like us. I don't like saying names, but his name rhymed with Ryan. If that'll and so it's like I'm sure there was in a way some people rooting for us to fail. Um, maybe that's going too extreme, but um, it's good knowing that you always had our back, but at the same time you would lay down the law if need be.
And sometimes that would be the way I kept you safe
For sure.
was to do that.
For sure. So just a real quick side note, and I don't remember how the rule was written out specifically, but with the rated R movies, so how did we all get, fined for that? But I had a poster, a rather large size poster of Fight Club hanging up in my dorm my
Yes.
entire time I was there and never got a fine for it.
Because
Was it because
you didn't see the movie, and there was nothing on that poster that would be
Mark,
deemed evil.
I saw the movie. I mean, I knew the movie by heart. I probably watched it 500 times at that point, But I guess
someone told me it was a really great movie.
It is a
and I
great
went and
movie.
rented it. No, you know what I did? I fast forwarded through all the parts I just didn't feel comfortable with.
Yeah, and then you didn't watch anything.
So basically, I just fast forwarded through the whole movie, and then the credits were going. I was like, "Oh, well, waste." True story.
That's fair. No, it was just because, like, not only like I had the, so because Tom and I lived together for a year, right? I think we lived together during the whole 300 thing. So, I had the Fight Club poster on my wall. Tom had Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas poster on the wall.
Another fast forward movie.
So we had two R-rated movie posters just hanging up on our wall, and we never got. Nobody ever said a word to it.
No, the only one that would see it would be me.
That's true. That's true.
And now I would go with Ryan on his inspections, especially after I pointed out all the radar movies I found.
Right.
And then they all said, "Well, our kids don't have radar movies." One of the female RDs, her assistant RA had like 12 radar movies in her room. I got to stay as an assistant RA, by the way. I wasn't bitter at all.
Again, I don't like throwing around names, but did this RD, was this the one that her name started with an A?
Rhymed with her initials? Her initials are Amy.
Yeah. Okay, thanks. That's what I thought.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, okay, so the three. Do you want to say anything else about the 300 before we move into the flag?
No, because that one was just. I still never saw the movie because I always think of Tom not being able to be the assistant RA, and it makes me hate the movie. Like I never want to see it.
Do you think if Tom told you, Mark, I really want you to watch this movie, do you think
you would have to watch it with me?
All right, that's fair. That's fair. All right, so as I'll give you a little bit more backstory here, and then I want to hear your take on the whole flag thing. So what I learned later was because there was some talk about us all going to see 300 that had spread somewhat around the campus. Obviously enough that you guys knew about it and other people knew about it. So the idea was that they knew we were not going to be, everybody from 24 was going to be gone that night. And so the idea for this prank was, well, we can get into 24, no problem. These guys are annoying because all they do is go to these intramural games. They bring this flag and they just wave it around in everybody's face, thinking back and win. Thinking back on it now, like truly cannot blame them. But like, so they went while we were all at the movie, snuck in, grabbed the flag, and went out, recorded a video, sent us this was back in the MySpace days. So they sent us a MySpace friend request, all of us at the same time, the very next morning, Saturday morning. We all wake up. We have this MySpace friend request from an account named 24 Down or something like that. I'm like, what is this? So we click on it, and here's this video. And I kid you not, like I remember this day like it was yesterday. Enough of us had kind of woken up roughly around the same time, and were watching the video roughly at the same time, that like by the time we got to the end of the video, there's like a few people all storming out of the room kind of at the same time, like, hey, obviously you did see what I just saw. And it just caused this
Wait,
huge...
the internet worked?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That was a Valley Forge miracle back then.
Well, it was a weekend, so most people were, going back home for the weekend or whatever it may be. But yeah, so we got our flag burned. There was a video, they peed on the flag, all that kind of stuff. So I love to hear your take on this story.
So I found out because I was in my office and someone gave me the video on flash drive. Someone downloaded it and gave it to me. And so I automatically knew, I was like, I thought, oh, it's those three guys from 23 in the apartment. And so I got Audacity out and then I slowed down the audio because they sped up the audio.
Yeah, they like mask their voice and everything.
Yeah, mask their voice by speeding it up a little bit.
Right.
So I just slowed it down and then you could hear it. And I was like, oh, they took the freshman. Why would the freshman do it? His name was Davey.
Josh Davies.
Josh Davies.
Yep.
I gave him his card back.
Okay.
He's one of the ones that left the school.
Yep.
And then I got to give it to him when he came back to Valley Forge. But I remember I just called him in right away. And he's like, nope, I didn't do nothing. I was like, listen, I'm going to tell you, I have absolute proof that was you in the video. No, it wasn't me. I'm going to give you 30 minutes. Come back in 30 minutes and then we'll talk. But I'm telling you, I have the proof. It's like, all right, well, I guess he went and ran and talked to those three guys. They're like, oh, no, there's no way Marcus got that figured out. We mastered your voice good. So he came in and I remember I got really mad. I mean, I was pissed. Because it's like, you went in and you stole something, which, just, that can be funny, but then they peed on it and then lit it on fire. That's like different. And then tried to be like, mask it. And so he's like, no, I didn't do nothing. And I had the RD named Ryan with me. And Ryan's with Ryan. And he's just sitting there and he's got the biggest smile on his face because he would always play bad cop and I was always good cop.
Yeah.
And I was playing bad cop. This is the only time I ever played bad cop. So he was just loving it. And I was like, are you telling me you're lying to a residence director? This is not like, this is major issue. This could endanger your enrollment to the school. Can you please, I'm begging you, I told you 30 minutes ago, I got it. I can just hit one button and prove that you're wrong. Can you please come up and just say that you did it? And he said, nope. I said, your last chance. We're just going to stay silent for 5 seconds. And I was like, did you do it? Nope. And I just hit play and it just played it with the slowed down audio and his face. He just instant tears. I was like, and I felt like the biggest jerk because I made it into a huge thing. Like,
sure.
Because I felt bad because I turned it into a something that was going to cost some thousands of dollars when I could have done it differently, but I just was mad because it was like 24 Down was my child.
Sure.
And so when I tried to be a bully to my kid, and I was like, I just need to smack somebody down. And so I did, and I felt horrible about it. I remember going to Dr. Mortensen and telling him, because I already told him before, and he's the one that said, listen, you tell him. When I sent him back out and come back in 30 minutes, he goes, if he does not confess to this, tell him his enrollment will probably be taken. And because that's usually a Dr. Meyer thing or a Dr. Mortensen thing. They'll
Right.
ask me sometimes. And so I remember that. And I remember he confessed he really was distraught. And I was like, oh, this poor kid got used, and these other three guys aren't going to get in trouble much. And then they got in trouble, like they had a consequence, but them trying to get you using this freshman caused the freshman thousands of dollars.
Right.
And that just really made me mad. I remember. So that was I remember that. So it really wasn't that long. I mean, I got it. I threw it in Audacity in like 1 minute.
Right.
Slowed it down and knew exactly who it was.
Well, so I don't know if you remember this. So leading up to that, because I remember you having the flash drive, and you said, "Hey, I've got some software. I'm gonna like try and figure this out, and whatever." And prior to that, we had because Josh had said something in that video, well, with his masked voice, so we still weren't sure. He said something, or no, it was his laugh. It was he had a very distinct laugh. So you heard this laugh, and you're like, I'm pretty like I remember us all being like, I'm pretty sure that's Josh Davies. And so we went to his MySpace page, and the night before, the night of the whole flag thing, it showed Josh Davies, because it was more than three other guys. It was like I think five other guys, but it showed Josh Davies became friends with Alex Anderson, Phil Anderson, Brian Crow, like
Oh no, it is more than 3. It's 4. I
yeah,
forgot about Brian.
it was Todd what's Todd's last name? Phil's gonna kill me that I can't remember his last name.
Oh,
Todd Lowens. Todd.
Yes.
Yeah, Todd. I think there was another guy too that I can't remember his name either. There was I think 5 or 6 of them. But anyway, like
All
it
of
showed.
them were Mark haters.
Yeah. Oh, really?
And they turned around. Like we ended up ending on good terms, but man,
Yeah.
they really didn't like me for a long time.
Well, it's funny. So it's like we see like he becomes friends with all like 5 or 6 of these people like the night the flag was taken, and like it's like all right. So at that point, like we already like you just kind of gave everybody up, like, and then you were able to do the audio thing and everything like that. So, I remember.
And then Josh Davies became a member of the 24 Down family.
Josh Davies did, yeah.
Yes.
Well, you know who
when
else?
he came back to school.
No, it was Alex Anderson.
No, but Josh Davies moved into 24
Did
Down
he?
too.
I don't remember. I don't remember that, but I remember Alex Anderson did for sure. Yep. So
quick to forgive.
Yeah. Well, that's so like looking back on all that now. I mean, Mark, I was so pissed. I remember like and I'm not that much different now as far as my size. I probably have more in my belly, but I'm still a small, like built guy. And I was definitely like, I was like very, very small, like no muscle at all. And I remember when we put the pieces together and figured out like who it was, Todd lived in 24 up at the time. I think the rest were in that 23 apartment, but Todd lived in 24 up. And I remember storming up there as a floor, and I was like one of the people in the front, like, what am I going to do? This guy's like 7 foot tall. Like I would have just like completely got annihilated had it got to a fist fight. He would have just easily disposed of me.
And I think he had more athletic ability than you too.
For sure. But like we like so mad. And what's crazy to me now is I just spent the whole weekend with Phil and Alex Anderson. Those are two of my best friends. They both came to Michigan for my wedding. Like we talk all the time. And it was after Alex came back to school and he got put on 24 down, which did not go so well at first, because when I heard that, I like rushed to get to school. I was on my way to school, and I like Mike Vieira called me. He said, "You'll never believe who they put in our floor." And I was like, "Who?" He's Alex Anderson. And my foot, just the gas pedal, like went all the way to the ground. And I remember I gave him the cold shoulder for a long time, and it was his roommate at the time. Do you remember Murph Kujawa? He was from Buffalo also.
Yes.
So he was Alex's roommate, and he pulled me aside and he said, "Hey, like, just wanted to let you know, like, Alex is kind of a cool guy." And I, in my head, I'm like, "No, he's not. He's terrible. He burned our flag, blah, blah, blah." And he was like, "Well, it's like he likes wrestling too." And that was the one thing where I was like, "All right, well, maybe I'll talk to this guy." And to this day, like, Alex is one of my best friends. But it's crazy how, to me, it's crazy how, like, we were so, like, I couldn't stand these people. And now, like, two of them are so, like, literally two of my best friends. So it really, like, kind of comes full circle and shows again, I guess, maybe that forgiving nature of 24 down or whatnot. But
Maybe Jesus a
yeah, yeah.
little bit of Jesus in there.
And to the point where, like, even so then, like, not all of them, but I know Phil and Alex specifically, and I think one or two other ones got kicked out of Valley Forge. Wasn't for the flag, but it was shortly after the flag. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure the flag thing did not help with their case. Um, but when
It's more of a case by case basis, though, really.
well, they had the reputation from the flag because I think it was literally like maybe a few weeks prior. And so it's to the point where, like, so they got kicked out. And if you listen to some of these previous podcasts, especially mine, like, I rant about it because it makes me so mad knowing that they got kicked out for something that a week after they got kicked out for, there were basketball players that did the exact same thing and worse that got a game suspension, a
See,
preseason.
that was when I was in the library.
Yes, they got a
Yes.
preseason game suspension after also Dr. Mortensen. Now, I think you might have been in the library for this too. Me and Tom Rizzo and James Majeski got suspended for drinking in New Jersey on Labor Day or whatever, one of the weekends. And when I say drinking, we shared, seven of us shared a drink probably this size, but we came clean and whatever, got suspended. And I had Dr. Mortensen promise me that if anything ever happened similar to anybody else, they will get the same repercussion. And then lo and behold, basketball players, way worse, get a preseason game suspension. And so I remember, like, how upset that made me for guys like Phil and Alex that got kicked out of school, that potentially, like, ruined their life. And I guess, like, just coming full circle again, like, I'm not trying to talk negative about the school, but coming full circle again, I think that's what everybody in 24 down, as well as outside 24 down, that loves you for the fact that you weren't that kind of guy to just, oh, you did something wrong, you're gone. You would sit and you would talk and you would understand and you would listen and sympathize and explain why what we did was wrong. And so I don't know, I think it was a pretty cool dynamic, the whole flag thing, how upset we were, how
I
we're
was
all
mad too.
how like we're close now, you know. But yes, it's interesting. It's definitely interesting.
Yeah. Well, I loved seeing the community in 24 down. And I love that the fact that 14 years later,
Yeah,
13
something
years
like
later,
that.
we're having this conversation about those things. Because
Yeah.
it was the worst job I ever had. Like I like, oh, it just was such a stressful, horrible time. But I loved every minute I could go down there and hang out with you guys or hang out with the guys, in the different departments. And I just have a lot of awesome stories that are really funny that not a lot of people would find as funny as I do. But
That's all
it,
right.
it it was an awesome ride in terms of seeing you guys doing so awesome and just life in
Well,
the midst of being hard. Well, life is hard.
for
Life
sure,
sucks.
for sure. Well, I will say this, and I know you haven't listened to, like, the episodes yet, and I'm sure you'll get around to them. But this is what I tell everybody. Like, you'll see when this episode comes out, the episode is going to be called, episode 15, Telesha Part 1, because the invite is always on the table for anybody to come back and do a part 2, part 3, part 4. So as you remember some of these stories, you might want to come on again, or you might want to weigh in on some things or whatever. So the invite is always on the table to have you back. Um, I have one last question for you, and then I'm gonna do some quick little plugs, and then I'm gonna let you kind of close this episode out in whatever way you want to close it out. If you want to give some last words, say a prayer, whatever it is that you want to do. My last question for you is it was supposed to be this year, supposed to be October-ish of 2020. We were going to do a 24 down reunion. Obviously, with the way the world is, it's not the most realistic thing. So we're looking at maybe doing something next year if things get any better. But bottom line is, whenever the 24 down reunion happens, is Mark Telesha going to come?
Oh, I'd love to.
It's
my
going to.
my schedule is the most inflexible schedule ever, though. I
Well,
work with kids.
for sure. I mean, it'll be something that's known about well enough in advance, and it'll be in Pennsylvania. So hopefully, because I know everybody would absolutely love to see you.
Oh, I'd love to see you guys too.
So
I remember when my daughter went to Valley Forge, I went down there for one of the meetings, and it was probably I was gone for probably 6 or 7 years, and I went down to 24 down. I was like, oh, I gotta go, and they're like, oh, they changed it to, and they had a name. I forget what the name is.
I know, I remember they changed it. I couldn't tell you what the name was.
But it was so funny because those guys knew the reputation of 24 down as being close.
That's insane.
And so I have a picture of me with like these 20 guys from 24 down that I've never met or known, and they all took a picture with me.
That's
and
so cool.
I was holding the plaque of whatever the building was named after.
That's
and
so
I had
cool.
them doing the 24 down.
That's
I gotta find that picture.
For sure. Yeah.
That was pretty funny.
So Francis and Andrew they've started another podcast within this like family of podcasts. So it's called The Back Porch. We voted on it, and the name of the show is The Back Porch, but it's basically a follow-up show. So the premise is that they're going to do a follow-up for every episode. So somebody is listening to this episode in particular, let's say, and they're like, oh, I want to weigh in. I heard this story and I want to weigh in.
There's
on
a
something.
million of them.
Yeah. And so they're going to then have that opportunity to, in the follow-up episode, weigh in on whatever they do. But one of the things they want to do is also have pictures and videos that they can link during this episode. So definitely find that picture so that for the follow-up episode, they can say, yeah, hey, check this picture out here. It's the one Mark's talking about. Well, let me do these real quick plugs here really quick, and then I'm going to let you close this out. If you guys got Twitter at all and you want to follow us for whatever reason on Twitter, you can follow us. It's at 24 Down Podcast. If you need to email us for any reason, 24downpodcast@gmail.com. If you want to buy one of the shirts, we got the 24 Down Podcast shirts, or just the regular shirts with just the 24 Down logo, like you can see right here. Those are storefrontier.com/24down.
I thought I got one free for coming on the show.
Maybe I might, I haven't made that a thing, Mark, but
I'm only kidding.
I might send you one anyway. And then the Facebook pages, we got the 24 Down Podcast page itself, which you can like and follow for information. And then there's a 24 Down private group page as well, where a lot more conversation goes on. If you can't find your way to that, message somebody within 24 Down. Eventually you'll be able to get into that somehow. I guarantee it. And then the YouTube page as well, where we got the video version of this podcast as well. So those are my plugs, Mark. And man, I really, really appreciate you coming on. Like I said, this is a huge episode for me to have somebody who is actually employed by the school, but not only that, to have somebody that was as much a part of our family as anybody else was. This was a huge, huge episode for me. I know a lot of other people feel the same way. Really like pumped to hear this and have you on. So if you want to close us out, and you just kind of take it away, whatever you want to say.
All right. Well, I love all you guys, and I really enjoyed, in the midst of my stress, you guys were awesome to be around. Just liked being around you. But one is this might mean something to somebody, but don't think I didn't know that a pee test done 3 hours later wouldn't help out people to drink a lot of water and not get removed from the college. I might have known how that wouldn't have worked out, and I actually had tests on hand, and I just said I needed to buy more tests. And so, just for those that are out there, just know I had your back because I knew you wouldn't do anything stupid like that ever again, even in your 30s. And then the other thing is guys, and I tell my kids this and everything else, is this world's crazy. The church is crazy half the time and everything else. But just learn to love Jesus, and everything else is going to fall in place. But just hold on. 2020 is going to be over, but Jesus is still king in the midst of it all. But missed you all. Hope to be there. Thanks so much.
Awesome.